Yo, so today I want to show you guys the GVM 650B, and I want to compare it right up next to the Aputure 600D. The reason why I wanted to do this comparison is because the 600D by Aputure is just over $1,000, and the GVM 650B is just under $900. Yes, similar in price, but if you buy the GVM, will it accomplish almost the same thing as the Aputure? Would you just be able to use the GVM? And also, the GVM is a bicolor light. So if the GVM is just as bright or almost just as bright and almost just as accurate with skin or just as accurate with skin, maybe the GVM is a better light for you because now you're getting a great key light that you could use for interviews or, commercial settings, and it's bicolor. I'm not going to be checking out the accuracy of the color temperature today, but I am going to be checking the accuracy of the skin tones, which in my opinion is probably more important than the accuracy of the color temperatures. So really what I want to try to do today is figure out if the GVM 650B is a better purchase for you. Because if the 600D and the GVM 650B have the same accuracy when it comes to skin tones and the same output when it comes to 5600 Kelvin, maybe the GVM is better because it does have that bicolor option. So anyways, let's get right into it. Here we go. I have the GVM 650B. It's right behind me and it's adding this edge, this nice warm edge. This is such a minimal application for this light, but it's doing a great job. And I'm gonna show you a couple different applications here, just kind of off the fly in this room. So I'm an Aputure guy. This GVM light interested me. A buddy of mine was using it and I said, this is a pretty nice light for what it is for the cost. My 600D by Aputure was out in the shop at the moment, so I was like, yes, I could use another powerful light. And more light is always great, right? So I'm gonna go over kind of what I'm thinking about this light right now, and I think I definitely like this light. I think it's been a great addition to my kit. So what I have here is a 600D and a 300D Mark II, kind of coming through an 8x8, adding nice, soft, big key, nice catch light. I have a tube adding cold on the wall here. I also have a light coming in, 200D by Amaran, coming in and adding that edge. I have tubes over here, kind of splashing on that wall, a little bit of contrast, and then I have the GVM 650B kind of coming in and edging me. So I feel like it's looking really nice. This is one tiny application for the GVM. And just to show you how bright this light can go, I am going to crank it up all the way. I know this is kind of like, oh, he's gonna blast out the camera, but I'm gonna show you, it's at 5% right now and it's doing a great job. I'm gonna blast it up all the way and show you how bright this light can be. I'm using the Sony FX9. I'm at a 1.4, I'm at 1/27 for my ND and ISO 800. So I'm gonna go blast this up and show you what it's got. Okay, so this is 2700 Kelvin. I didn't change the color temperature, but this is blasted all the way. So you can imagine if there was a window back here, I could definitely take this light and kind of stick it outside a window and make it look like sun. If we were in a living room with a window over here and that was coming through, gorgeous. This would look beautiful and it would totally make sense with the space that we were in. But the space that we're in currently, it doesn't really make sense for where we are, because where's this crazy powerful light coming from? Unless it is, some crazy practical light that we're seeing, or it's the sun. So bringing it down makes it dim enough to say maybe there's some dim practicals in the room. I'm too dark for what the background is, but I wanted to show you this is just it bouncing off the ceiling. It is full power at 5600 Kelvin, but I'm ND'd down to 27. I'm at 800 ISO, and this is a dark room. And this light is doing a killer job at really bringing up that background. So if you needed to be able to bring up a background for any reason, this light is awesome for that. Okay, so now this is the warm tone. This is filling this room with warm tone. Again, I don't love the way it looks, but I'm just showing you an application that if you needed to fill a room with light, you could definitely do it. Now I'm gonna bring this light over here. I'm gonna use it as the key light, and I'm gonna kind of compare it to what the 600D is doing. And I'm gonna check skin, and I'm gonna see the output of it and see if it can kind of match what my 600D is doing. So this is the 600D by Aputure. Output is all the way up 100%. Okay, and now we have the GVM at 100% at 5600 Kelvin. Okay, so here we have the GVM 650B. We can see exposure values from the parade here. And then we have the Aputure 600D, and we can see exposure values from the parade here. So we are seeing that the Aputure 600D does have a little bit more exposure, and I'll kind of let you guys look at this. Okay, so now we can see the two different images. 650B here on the right, 600D on the left. 650B, yes, you do see a little bit darker of an image. I could still work with it though. All it's gonna take is a little bit of bump in shadows or mids and just kind of bring that up, maybe add a little bit more contrast back in. I think you could easily achieve what you're getting here from the 600D with just a little bit of an exposure bump. And with cameras nowadays, that's not a huge deal to kind of bump that exposure and add a little more contrast back in. It's not going to take that much away from your image. We're going to do that right now. And what you can see here in the parade is the values. So here's the blue value from the 650B here, 600D here, green value, 650B and 600D, red value, GVM 650B and 600D. Great, so now we're kind of seeing really where the exposure lies. All the lower ones are going to be the 650B and all the higher ones are going to be the 600D. So the 600D, yes, it does have more exposure, but the exposure value isn't that much greater to me to make a huge difference to where I just cannot exchange these lights between each other. I still think the 650B by GVM would be a great option as a key light. Let's bring up the GVM 650B values to match the 600D and see what we got. Okay, so I'm just bringing the shadows up. And it looks like we're matching pretty well. Maybe we just bring those highlights up a little bit. Nice. And now we can bring the shadows down. Now, when I look at these scopes, I don't see much difference. If I were to look at these and this was off the bat what it looked like, I would say exposure's almost exactly the same. You're not going to have much difference. So this looks pretty good to me. And now if we look side by side, man, I mean, it looks great. What I do think the GVM needs at this point is maybe to be warmed up just slightly, which I'm just going to warm it up a little bit, and that'll probably help our warm tones here in the scopes. So we can look at these scopes again. And yeah, they're looking better. Oh, this looks great. This looks awesome. Perfect. And I'm just going to add a little bit of contrast back in, which will take exposure down. But I feel like the 600D has a little more contrast. So I'm just going to add some contrast back in there. And I'm going to bring the shadows up to kind of match. I mean, look at those two. Just a slight exposure change, not much. And I'm able to match these perfectly. If you were to ask me which one is which, I don't know. How could you ever tell? I'm going to check skin tones at this point. I have corrected the GVM to be the exposure that I want it to be. Okay. So now what I'm going to do, since it's the exposure that I want it to be, I'm going to check skin tones now. So if I take the skin tone correction off, if I look over at the GVM, I can see where it sits. And if I look over at the 600D, I can see where that sits. I would say that the GVM is leaning a little bit more magenta. This is the 600D. And if I go back to the GVM, this is what the GVM looks like. So the GVM is definitely leaning more towards magenta. Even the 600D here, I still have to correct it, right? So if I correct the 600D, then there we go. Now, if I go over to the GVM and I correct this to the same exact way that I corrected the 600D, there we go. So I can deal with either of these. So again, here's a comparison view. Below what we have is the 650B. Above what we have is the Aputure 600D. So we've answered our question of, can this be swapped out with the 600D when it comes to a key light? And I think I could do that. I just need to know its limitations. Now, what I'm going to do one more time is I'm just going to show you guys what the GVM looked like before we did any corrections. So we corrected the 600D first, and now I'm going to correct the 650B by GVM with the exact same settings. And I'm just going to show you quickly the differences one more time. So I'm going to get rid of everything, and I'm going to put everything back on. And let's bring it back down here so we can see it. And there we go. Same exact settings for exposure and skin. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put false color on these images through Dehancer. I love the Dehancer false color. I think it's great. And we can really kind of see where we sit. So as we can see, the GVM does have more of this pink and the light pink, which is a little bit more correct for skin. It has the greens, which is a little bit below, and it has middle gray here, which is always fine for skin. On the GVM, we have a little bit of this pink and just a tiny bit of the light pink, which is still okay. We have a lot of middle gray and we have some green, which is lower. So again, you look at these scopes and you say, yes, this image is brighter than this image. Is this one still acceptable, the GVM? Absolutely. This is definitely acceptable for exposure. But with the GVM, all I would need to do on site is just bring my ND down a tiny bit and I would have matched what the 600D was doing perfectly. My allergies are absolutely destroying me. My eyes It looks like I'm a zombie. I got eye drops, I got medications, but whatever. Let's go over what we're doing today. So what I'm going to do is put the 650B in place of the 600D, and it's going to be in the same exact place, same position, same distance, everything's the same. I'm gonna put the softbox on it and all that. So it's gonna be all absolutely the same. So here we go. Okay, so here I am with the GVM 650B, 5600 Kelvin, maxed all the way up. So right now I'm gonna check brightness and skin tones. Okay, so I'm just gonna be using false color to check out these differences in this image. The 600D is on top, 650B is below. A little bit brighter in the skin on the 600D here, a little bit less bright with the 650B. So let's turn on false color using Dehancer. Dehancer is awesome. I love using it. So if we look here at the meter, we can see a lot of this skin here is around 70. It's a little bit bright for my taste. I'd probably bring that down a little bit, but that's just with the correction that I did. Both of these images have the exact same correction on them, just so we can see what they look like next to each other. So we're seeing a little bit of light grays, or quite a bit of light grays. We're seeing some lighter pink, some darker pink, some middle gray, and some green to kind of give you a lower exposure value. And that's all in the 600D on my skin. And if we look at the 650B, we are seeing those pinks. We're seeing a little bit of the lighter grays, and we're seeing some greens. And we're seeing some actually more of the blue areas here, which is getting even deeper. Both of these images are acceptable with this correction. I definitely would agree though that the 650B does have lower exposure than the 600D. So if we look at the GVM skin tone line uncorrected, we can see it's right about here, right? Leaning into the magenta. And if we go to the 600D, we can see it's almost the same. Just to show you the power of skin correction, here's the 600D without skin correction, and here it is with skin correction. I mean, come on. And we go to the GVM 650B and skin not correct, and then skin corrected. This is the cable that goes from the ballast to the light. That here, plastic, definitely I could see this breaking. This, I don't have too much confidence in this cable. If I were to drop this on the floor and a boot were to step on the receiving end there, it would probably crack. I don't plan on leaving it on the floor. I plan on packing it away or having it connected. Same thing with the Aputure lights anyways. And the power cable looks to be almost the same as the Aputure. They're not bad cables. They're not great. This is the 600D cable, metal. Really, really nice. So this goes to the ballast to the actual fixture. Very happy with this. 600D, yeah, same as a GVM. Plastic, that falls, you crush that with a boot, that's done. So if we look at how we attach the ballast, same thing as the Aputure. Really nice design, right? Great design. Aputure did a great job. GVM looks like they kind of used that same design. Totally fine, like I'm all for it. This is a little bit less user-friendly, I guess you could say. And the Aputure one seems to be a little bit nicer to use as like a user experience, but definitely not a bad piece of kit. I feel like this one might be more standard to what you could just buy on like Amazon or B&H or something like that, but still not a bad piece of kit there. The connector for the ballast here. So this is, I mean, a much, much nicer connector for the ballast, in my opinion. Way the user experience is much, much nicer. It feels premium and sturdy. It feels like it was made custom, right? That's kind of what it feels like. And really it was made custom for these lights, when it feels like the GVM one was just kind of like a stock one off the shelf. I'm okay with that. It's not like I'm mad about that, but at the same time, this one feels more premium and more like it was really made and customized for this light. If you look at the ballast is pretty nice. It's light, which is also really nice because the actual fixture is really heavy. Click-in buttons are the first ones click. This power button. This also takes quite a while to turn on. I would say 1, 2, 3. I'd say almost 4 seconds maybe to kind of get that thing rolling. The ballast, it's heavier than the GVM 650B, but this is much more premium. Looks a little bit better. The interface is much nicer when you're actually using the light as well. And these are very small things, and they don't really make a huge difference to me when it comes to the quality of the light that you're getting for your shoot. This fixture is big and heavy, but I mean, it's a nice fixture for sure. Has the same design on the side here as the Aputure lights. Really nice. Yeah, I got nothing bad to say about this. So right? It clicked on, but I can just take it right off. So in my opinion, that's kind of annoying. Here's the actual fixture itself. Very nice. Same thing as the GVM, right? But I mean, Aputure did it first, I think, right? With this, you know, this mechanism that kind of allows you to tilt the light up and down, lock it nice and tight, not going anywhere. The front piece here locks in, right? GVM one just kind of comes right off this. This one, put it back on, you lock it, and I mean, that's such a simple fix for GVM. I'm sure they'll figure it out. I think both fixtures look really, really nice. Which one I like better? I think the Aputure one looks better anyways. I wouldn't say that it's necessarily built better. I would say that they could both withstand the same amount of abuse. This goes from the fixture to the ballast. This is metal. The one on the GVM is plastic. If this were to break on the GVM, yeah, you're in a bad position. This doesn't look like it would break. Both really great fixtures. If I were to say the Aputure was a 10 with, you know, user experience and quality, I'd probably say the GVM maybe is a 7.9. So it's not far behind. It's just these little tiny nuances, little tiny things. The cable, that's the biggest thing I think for me. And I'm not really upset about the build of the GVM. I still think it's built really, really well. All right, so that's the GVM 650B. Honestly, guys, GVM 650B, really a fantastic light. At first, I was like, well, why is it so cheap? Tried it out and don't care that it's so cheap. It's a good light. I'm happy with it. Okay, so my thoughts on the GVM 650B versus the Aputure 600D. I love Aputure. I think they're a great light, and I trust them. GVM 650B, if you're looking to get your first big powerful light, GVM 650B, you're gonna save a couple bucks. You're gonna get a bicolor light. It's gonna give you more options. You have more fun with it. You can add a light source coming through a window looking like a sun. You can add cold light coming into a room. You can match sources that you maybe can't turn off in conference centers or things like that, in rooms that the light sources on the ceiling can't go off. You could match those lights. So having that bicolor option, in my opinion, outweighs the tiny bit of output loss and the skin tone possibly being maybe a little bit more magenta, because I can fix skin tone, and if I need a brighter light, I'll just get a bigger, brighter light or two of these lights. So in my opinion, GVM 650B, awesome light. Go for it. If you're thinking about these two lights, don't think too hard. GVM 650B is a great option. All right, guys, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.